Hello, I'm Jared Ritchie, and I am the RNS chair for community choirs here for Louisiana ACDA. I'm also the guy who has been spearheading this project, at least boots on the ground, with our Louisiana ACDA website last year, the redesign, and then our slow, incremental, tedious trying to improve our online audition process for the All-State Honor Choir each October. So what I wanted to do is give you a quick tutorial with some pointers of how to use it. It's now up and live. We thank you for your patience. We hope that by giving you maybe a little bit less of a time to submit than we have in the past auditions, that we'll be able to trade that off with a more efficient, streamlined submission process. The idea is that we're directors, we are doing the same thing you're doing, and we know what it is that is stressful. So we're trying to minimize that because you sure don't get paid enough to do this kind of thing. So we're going to just walk through it. As I said, I'm up in Monroe, Louisiana. I am at Geneva Academy. I teach general music and choir there. And then also I was at, you might remember seeing me in and around. I was with Deborah Chandler at ULM in Monroe for a while doing my master's and then working there for a time. So go to ACDA website, the Louisiana ACDA website, and you just click on the the All-State Choir tab. First thing you see now is All-State Online Audition. You can click on that directly, or you can click on one of the drop downs, and notice we have 4 choices. We've got children's, youth, women's, and men's online audition forms. You submit by honor choir this year. So, and we've geared it for you as the director or the teacher to submit. So if you go in, you click here on the children's, let's say, and we've gone in and you put in your titles. Some of this stuff is required. And I'm going to put my first name, Jared Ritchie, my last name there. I'm going to say my school, which is, as I said, Geneva Academy, and I'm going to give it my address, which is, 123 School Avenue, and you're going to put, all the rest of this in here. Notice we stopped making this required. So we want you to put all this in on the first time you do this. So I've gone through here. Let's say I've put in my ACDA number. You got to be current. I've put all this stuff in, blah, blah, blah. And then once you get all that done, if you have to submit this form again, we don't need you to submit this again. This will only slow you down, and we don't want to do that. So the next page in this form for each of these honor choir forms is a spot to put 10 names. What you've got here is you've got 10 students that you can submit auditions with one form submission. So I've got, let's say, John Q. Smith, and he's in 5th grade here. This is our test. The first thing you've got here is for children's honor choir, it's the the spoken introduction in America. And so I'm going to put something there. Well, I've already saved something. So I've got, the Three Stooges saying hello. So a little MP3 there. The next thing is my piece. Well, I've got a little thing where the Three Stooges are singing. So I can attach that. That's also an MP3. So I've done that. Okay, well, that's John's audition. Those 2 things. Well, then I go through and do, Jane's audition or whoever's. And I can do that with the spoken part, the scales in the older choir, the spoken part, and then the actual audition piece that they are required to sing. So I can do this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 10 times. And then at the 10th time there, depending on how many of these I've done, it's $10, the fee per audition. So we need you to tally that and put that in there. If you've got 10 students, obviously you've got $100 you need to put in this blank, 90, 80, etc. So I've just done the one here, and so I'm going to put the $10 in, and then I'm going to hit submit. All right, and once I hit submit for this children's honor choir thing, it's going to upload that file. It may take a little bit of time. My files were small, and there are only 2 of them. If I had 9 more students in their files, we would still be sitting there waiting. So be patient. That may take a minute. Then it's going to bring you to your checkout or your payment summary page. This looks just like any other kind of online transaction. The only thing I'll draw your attention to is look at this e-check. This is our attempt to try to help those of you who are only allowed to use checks. The compromise, which still will be a little bit tedious, is I don't know how yet we're going to be able to get around this one check. We may just have to override it, and you know, I'm not sure, but that's the plan. Is you may have to submit 4 checks if you do 40 students in one choir. Talk to us. Talk to Eric McCrary or myself or Natalie True or even President Anthony Sears, and we can see if we can work around that with you. As I said before, we want to make this easier for you and not harder, and so we know that it's impossible to go overnight something radically utopian with no stresses and no grief, but we hope that we can minimize that grief on you, like I said, because we all know we're not paid enough to do all of this. So all right, once you finish completing that via credit card, if you think it's going to be a problem, then submit it via credit card, because you can do that several times. And then when you're finished, put the email address you need that to. You can print that invoice out. It'll come from Natalie True or us here. And then you just click Submit Payment. I'm not going to do that because I don't have all this information filled in. But if you can do that, you don't need me to demonstrate that. Okay, so you say, Jared, yes, I just did that, and I filled out all 10 of those for the Children's Honor Choir. But Jared, I've got 36 students. What do I do? Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to go back and submit that form 3 more times. So you have to do another batch of 10, but just put your name and your school down there. You don't have to put all your phone contact and all that information again. We're not going to make you do all that. So do the next 10 and the next 10. And then if you've got students in the youth choir, you're going to need to do that. But keep in mind, this is different than last year. Last year you had to do this how many times? You had to do this per student. So we're making strides in the right direction. Okay, a quick word about getting your audition. So say you've done that and you say, Jared, you just skipped something big time. How do I get even that far? I got to get that audition recording. Well, we went over this last year, and we'll go over it again. What I recommend is think simple. You don't need to go buy a microphone. You don't need a heavy, expensive recording equipment. All you need is a smartphone. If you've got a smartphone that's an iPhone or an Android or an iPad or something like that, all you've got to do is take that. There is a Voice Memos app. It's a little white icon with a little voice reader. And you open that, and that's this little app right here. It's just a small app, and I can hit record. Set that about a foot or so away from the piano or the table. Don't set it on the piano. Set it closer to the singer than to yourself or to your speakers on your CD track. But record it. I'm recording it right now. And when you're done, hit the record button again, say done, name it, and hit save. Mine just gives it new recording, but I'm going to say the student's name. Save it, then touch it. I can play it. About a foot or so away from the piano or the table. That's pretty good. Set it on the piano. It's clear. It's my voice there. And then there's a little arrow there, that a little up arrow with a piece of paper, and you can text message it to yourself via message, or you can email it to yourself. Well, that's what I recommend you do, is email it. And when you do, just send it to yourself, label it, and if you don't have a bunch of these, this will obviously be pretty quick. It can be tedious if you have a bunch, and you might need to invest in some recording stuff. But if you just have a handful of these things and you don't have the budget or the equipment already, don't go stressing over it. This will work fine. So once you email it to yourself, email it to yourself and go back to your computer, a computer where you have an editing software like Audacity or some other program, more expensive, cheap. Audacity is free. Just Google it. We've talked about it before in other venues at ACDA. Go ahead and take that, open it, and save it as an MP3 if you can. All it means is you open it, export it as an MP3, and use the file labeling system that we talked about with the name and the song and all that, and when you submit it. Save all that on your desktop or your computer or in a folder that you can find when it's time to go do the forms. If you think, Jared, that's too complicated, then take 10 of your singers or one of your classes and record all the auditions back to back on one of these things. If you've got enough space on your phone's memory, you can record it in one big file. If it's too long, if it's 10 minutes long or 15 minutes long, it may not email very well. But if you want to take 5 students at a time and do that and number them, you may have to get a little bit creative. You may have to get one of your very tech-savvy students or your IT guy at the school to advise you, to look over your shoulder and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Is it right? It may take that. There is a learning curve. I wish there wasn't, but there just is. So hopefully that's a little bit of a help to you and it's not a stressor. So as always, if you need to get a hold of me, it's jaredritchie@gmail.com is my email. I can't promise I'll email you right back, but if you put LAACDA or submission deal in the subject line and make me aware of it, I'll do my best to either forward it or respond to it quickly, or email Eric McCrary, who is our tech guy for our ACDA and has been for a while, our president Anthony Sears, our treasurer Natalie True. They can help you. So I hope that's a benefit to you. Thanks a bunch.